Property transfer is a cornerstone of any legal system. It refers to the legal process where ownership of property shifts from one entity to another. This process, while seemingly straightforward, involves a complex interplay of laws, rights, and obligations. Understanding these complexities is crucial for anyone involved in property transactions. Whether you're buying a home, inheriting land, or simply curious about property law, this essay will provide a clear and concise guide to the key concepts of property transfer. Navigating the intricacies of property transfer can be daunting. This is due to the legal jargon and intricate procedures involved. This essay aims to demystify this process, explaining the core principles in simple terms. By understanding these principles, individuals can confidently engage in property transactions, ensuring their rights are protected. Transfer of property refers to the legal act of conveying ownership rights from one person or entity to another. This transfer can encompass a wide range of assets, including tangible assets like land and buildings, and intangible assets like intellectual property rights. This transfer of ownership isn't limited to simple transactions like buying or selling. It extends to inheritance, gifts, and even court judgments. Understanding the scope of what constitutes a transfer is crucial for interpreting the legal framework surrounding these transactions. Property, in the context of transfer, isn't limited to physical assets like land or buildings. It encompasses a broad spectrum of rights and interests. This includes tangible assets like movable property, goods and chattels, and immovable property, land and buildings. Beyond tangible assets, transferable property also includes intangible assets. These are assets that lack physical form but hold substantial value. Examples include intellectual property rights, patents, copyrights, trademarks, shares in a company, and even debts owed to a person. This broad definition underscores the far-reaching implications of property transfer laws. Not everyone has the legal capacity to transfer property. The transferor, the person transferring the property, must be competent to contract. This means they must be of sound mind, understand the nature of the transaction, and not be under any legal disability to do so. For example, minors, individuals of unsound mind, and those disqualified by law are generally considered incompetent to contract. This ensures that property transfers are conducted fairly and transparently, protecting the interests of all parties involved. Section 5. The mechanics of property transfer. The process of transferring property is a structured one, often involving multiple steps to ensure legality and clarity. While the specific steps may vary depending on the type of property and the jurisdiction, several common elements exist. These often include a written agreement outlining the terms of the transfer, a clear identification of the parties involved, and a precise description of the property being transferred. Additionally, the transfer process often necessitates fulfilling specific legal formalities, such as registration of the transfer with the relevant authorities. This meticulous approach ensures that the transfer is legally binding and minimizes the risk of future disputes. Section 6. Oral transfers and their validity. While written agreements are generally preferred for clarity and enforceability, oral transfers of property are recognized under certain circumstances. However, the validity and enforceability of such transfers are subject to specific conditions and are often more difficult to prove. In many jurisdictions, oral transfers are only valid for specific types of property, typically movable property of lower value. Immovable property, due to its significant value and permanence, usually requires a written agreement to effect a valid transfer. Section 7. Restraints on alienation of property. The right to transfer property is a fundamental aspect of ownership. However, certain conditions can restrict this right, known as restraints on alienation. These restraints limit the owner's ability to freely transfer their property to others. These restraints are typically imposed to serve specific purposes, such as preserving family ownership of property or ensuring the property is used for a particular purpose. However, courts often scrutinize such restraints carefully. This is because they can potentially hinder the free flow of property and infringe upon the owner's fundamental right to dispose of their property as they see fit. Section 8. Conditions contradicting transfer interests. In some instances, conditions attached to a property transfer may contradict the very interest being created. For example, a condition that prevents the transferee from ever selling the property transferred to them as a gift would contradict the concept of absolute ownership associated with a gift. Such conditions are generally considered void because they undermine the fundamental nature of the interest being transferred. The law aims to uphold the true intent of the parties involved in a property transfer. It does so by striking down conditions that fundamentally contradict the essence of the transfer itself. Section 9. Property transfer and insolvency. Insolvency, a state of financial distress where a person or entity is unable to pay their debts, has significant implications for property transfer. When a person becomes insolvent, their creditors may have claims over their assets, including property. This means that the insolvent person may not be able to freely transfer their property without first addressing the claims of their creditors. This ensures a fair and equitable distribution of the insolvent person's assets among their creditors. Section 10. Unborn persons and property rights. Property transfer laws often grapple with the concept of transferring property to individuals who are not yet born. While it might seem unusual, such transfers are common in estate planning, where individuals wish to provide for future generations. To ensure these transfers are valid and enforceable, specific legal mechanisms are in place. These mechanisms often involve appointing trustees to hold and manage the property until the unborn person comes into existence and reaches a certain age. These provisions ensure that the intentions of the transferor are upheld, even when dealing with beneficiaries who are not yet in existence. Section 11. The rule against perpetuity. The rule against perpetuity is a legal principle designed to prevent property from being tied up indefinitely in trusts or other arrangements. This rule essentially dictates that property interests must vest, meaning they must become certain and absolute within a reasonable time frame. This time frame is often linked to the lifespan of individuals alive at the time the interest is created, plus a certain number of years. The rule against perpetuity prevents the concentration of property ownership in the hands of a select few for excessively long durations. This ensures that property ownership remains fluid and accessible to future generations. Section 12. Conclusion. Navigating the complexities of property transfer. Understanding the principles of property transfer is crucial for anyone engaging in property transactions. By grasping the fundamental concepts, individuals can protect their interests and ensure their transactions are legally sound. This essay has provided a comprehensive overview of key concepts, from the definition and types of property to the intricacies of restraints on alienation and the rule against perpetuity. Armed with this knowledge, individuals can confidently navigate the complex world of property transfer. Remember, seeking legal advice from qualified professionals is always recommended before engaging in any significant property transaction. This ensures that your rights are fully protected and your transactions comply with all applicable laws and regulations.